morning, Dr. Lisa Ference here. I am with UPMC Lifestyle Medicine and Culinary Medicine. Today I'm going to make one of my favorites for you. We're going to make a tofu scramble. And if you've been intimidated to cook with tofu, this is a very simple, easy recipe, quick. I think it'll help you get familiar with adding tofu to your diet. And tofu it's just packed with nutrition. It is low in fat, it's got fiber, it's high in protein, it's got soy isoflavones. And there are definitely some myths about soy being bad for you, but I really want to dispel those myths. Soy isoflavones are wonderful, especially for your bones. They can be helpful for menopause. They actually can reduce breast cancer. So just, check with your own doctor if you are concerned about them, but really a great way to incorporate this into your diet. And the tofu scramble is a way to add a lot of other vegetables into this mix. It's an easy recipe. You can make it ahead and store it in the fridge for later in the week. It's sort of like a scrambled egg consistency. It's got like a big vegetable scramble with the tofu in it. So very, very good. So what I'm going to start with first, though, is we need to kind of press our tofu to get some of the moisture out of it. Now, in this particular recipe, we probably can get away without pressing it because you're crumbling it and some of the moisture will cook off, but I think it just crisps up a little quicker if we do press it and get some of the fluid out of it ahead of time. So I'm going to start with a spread of tofu that I get. This particular one is extra firm. I get this one from Trader Joe's. It is organic, and I would suggest when using soy products, it's probably a bit better if you are able to afford to get the organic products. First, we're just going to drain it. So drain some of the fluid out of it. I've already opened the package a bit. And this one comes in two separate little blocks. So, and in this recipe, we probably could squeeze it a bit to squeeze some of the fluid out. It's kind of like a sponge, but I want to give you the idea of how to press tofu in general, because when you're cooking it in other ways, you might want it to hold its consistency so you can cut it into blocks. So we will press it like we would in case we were using it in that capacity as well. They make tofu presses, but I just use a clean kitchen towel. Let me get the other piece out of here. And I'm going to wrap it in the towel a bit. Wrap each section. And then I'm going to press it between two big plates. I've got two of my dinner plates out, put this plate on top, and then I'm going to set something heavy on it. You can set several books if you like. I happen to have this fairly heavy pan that usually will sit on here without wobbling too much and at risk for falling. So you definitely want to, if you have some sort of pie weights or anything else. Again, it's not touching your tofu, so it doesn't have to be as sterile. But in the kitchen, obviously, you want something fairly sterile. So we will let this press for a while. We'll let the fluid get out of it. Then we'll come back and we will show you how to make tofu scramble. Okay, now we've pressed our tofu and I've prepped all our vegetables, and we're going to show you how to make tofu scramble. This is the tofu, and you can't really tell just by looking at it, but it's definitely dried out. The whole towel was soaked. So I'm setting that aside. We'll add that last, but that'll be ready to go. So I prepped our vegetables ahead of time, and you can use a variety of vegetables, kind of whatever you have. You can use frozen vegetables. I am using today some portobello mushrooms that I had in the fridge. Zucchini, yellow pepper, red onions, and some tomato. I had a small tomato I wanted to use up, so we're going to put that in here as well. I've often made this with some frozen vegetables. There's a nice medley of mushrooms that I like that come frozen, so I quickly cook those. I've sometimes used spinach, whether it be frozen or fresh, and just use those two things without cutting up a lot of extra vegetables. So as quick and easy as you want to make this, a lot of things come frozen. I mean, that's kind of one little time hack too. They sell onions already cut up frozen. I found those even in Walmart. Peppers, a variety of different colored peppers are often in the frozen section. So, once it's all sauteed up, I'm not sure you notice the difference between frozen and fresh quite as much. I mean, maybe a bit, but for the most part, I think you'll get the same taste. And if it makes it easier and helps you get a meal on the table quicker, I think that works. So today I got my oven my pan a little hot. I'm also going to show you how to saute instead of using oil, as we try to avoid too much oil, because oil does add a lot of calories and some fat. We tend to use the avocado oils, the olive oils, the healthier oils when we do, but using them sparingly, because a lot of our patients are really trying to watch their weight as well. And even small amounts of the healthy oils have a lot of calories, and they're calorie dense culinary products, as we say. So I usually have a pitcher of water or vegetable broth handy. Today it's water. My pan is already hot, so it might sizzle a bit, but I'm going to add a little water so that my vegetables don't stick, and I can leave it to the side to add at times if we need, but a lot of times the vegetables are releasing water as well, so it doesn't always need too much. I'm going to start with the vegetables to take a little longer to cook, and then add them in kind of an order that they tend to take to cook. I'm going to start with onions to get those soft, and I've just really chunked up some red onions. They'll probably fall apart a little bit more as we're sauteing them, but just wanted to make it easy. Are a little soft, I'll add the mushrooms. The mushrooms take a little bit of time to soften up and release their fluids as well. So we'll start with those. And I'll cook those for a minute and then come back and show you the rest. And now that the mushrooms and the onions are starting to soften and the mushrooms are releasing their fluid, I'll add the yellow peppers, and you can use any color, but I really wanted to make it a pretty variety of colors here. We'll give that a minute or so, and then I will add my zucchini and tomatoes. The other thing I like to add to this is some fresh garlic. You want to be very careful though with garlic. Oftentimes you see us use garlic at the beginning when you're cooking onions and that kind of thing. The problem is if the pan is too hot and the garlic gets burnt, it gets very bitter. So I'm often tend to add it towards, a little bit later in the process. So it's not getting over hot and getting bitter tasting too. So I will add some garlic along the way. Let's see. We'll add the zucchini as well. And probably that and the peppers will cook up similarly. You can also add the tomatoes. They really need to warm up. Get that out of the way. We'll add again, I could use fresh, but just using a clove or two of the minced garlic that I just buy in the jars. Mix that all up with everything. Probably use a little more of that water so I don't get any sticking here. And I'll get these all soft, and then we'll come back and show you how to make the rest of the tofu scramble. Soften the peppers and all a little bit. I just put the lid on for a few minutes to help steam things. You may or may not need to do that, but I think we're softened up a good bit. It'll continue to cook a bit when I put the tofu in. So now that we have this pretty colorful medley of vegetables, I'm going to add the tofu. And again, we press the tofu. There's not a lot of fluid left in it. And I'm going to crumble it, kind of into the consistency almost of scrambled eggs. And I've washed my hands. But just crumble it into small pieces, and I'll break it up a little bit more in the pan as well if there's some bigger pieces. But it really crumbles quite nicely. And again, fairly easy to cook. And if you did want it, for other recipes, if you wanted this to be a little crisper, probably using a little bit of oil would help at that point as well. I have other recipes I make when I crumble it, and it's just nice to have it a little crispy, so I use a small amount of avocado or olive oil. Crumble this up, and then we'll just incorporate it in there, and we'll show you the seasonings that I use to give it a rich, robust flavor. So all crumbled here. And then we'll just, again, break it up a little bit more and incorporate it into our vegetables. break it up some of the bigger pieces. And then the spices we use include turmeric, and turmeric is rich in anti-inflammatory antioxidants and gives it a nice orange kind of scrambled egg-like appearance too, which is nice. We have garlic powder, I have pepper, and I'm also using black salt, not just regular salt. Black salt has a bit of a sulfur kind of flavor, almost like scrambled eggs. Again, if that's not a flavor you're going for, you can use regular salt, but the black salt does give it kind of a unique flavor. So we will add our spices here. Set that aside. I've already measured them out, and we'll just sprinkle them on. Then we're going to use, it calls for soy sauce, or I also use the liquid aminos, which is a way to reduce the sodium a little bit. But this gives it a what we call umami flavor. It gives it a bit of a richness. They talk about umami almost being a beefy flavor sometimes, but mushrooms do that. Soy tends to do that. Just mix this a little bit so my spices kind of get throughout there. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of this. I'm sorry, 1 tablespoon. I'm glad I checked. And you can always adjust the seasonings per taste. The other ingredient we use is something called nutritional yeast, which is very healthy. A lot of vitamins in there, good for immune system, a lot of benefits of nutritional yeast. And when you're doing mostly plant-based cooking, it gives things a bit of a cheesy flavor. So when you're trying to make, you can also make some kind of vegan cheeses out of tofu and things like that. And sometimes adding the nutritional yeast will help. It calls for 2 tablespoons. Now, to be perfectly honest, I am not a huge fan of the flavor of nutritional yeast, so I would just suggest to each of you to try it. I would suggest to try it though. Try it in small amounts in a recipe. And add more based on your own taste. It calls for 2 tablespoons. I'm going to start with 2 teaspoons, and we'll taste it. And if I want more, I can always do that. But since I'm going to be eating this, I don't want it to go to waste, and I'm going to alter things kind of how I like it. Okay, but definitely very nutritious. So I do try to incorporate it in things. I just don't like I don't like to be overpowering the flavor. So, and that is our tofu scramble. And again, I can eat it today. Sometimes I put it over grits. I put it over quinoa. You can make some potatoes with it. Sometimes in the air fryer, the small potatoes cook up well. And then I will also put this in the fridge, store it for what I can do at breakfast, lunch, or dinners. Sometimes over a bed of spinach. I didn't put spinach in it this time, so if I want to put a bed of spinach, maybe some quinoa, some spinach in a bowl, put this on top, heat things up in the microwave, and kind of change it up a little bit. So I hope you enjoy. We'll have the recipe for you as well.